Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to start the presentation in just a few minutes. Lakeisha's here with us. And let me make sure her microphone is live. It is.
Hello.
Lakeisha is with Esri. She's a solutions engineer with state government. And a presentation working with your data engineering, visualization, and enrichment. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. A lot of folks don't know that, we were able to put this virtual workshop on for no cost at all to our members because of their sponsorship. They paid for the GoToMeeting that's can be pretty pricey when you're doing 3 concurrent sessions for 2 days, and we really appreciate their help, and we couldn't have done it without them. And it helps us be ready for when we're back in person. Hopefully that'll be next year. So without further ado, why don't you take it away, Lakeisha?
Okay, thank you, Ned. Good morning, everyone. Happy Geography Awareness Week, and yesterday was GIS Day. Thank you for joining me. My name is Lakeisha Coleman. I am a solution engineer on the state government team with Esri, and I'm based out of the Atlanta, Georgia office. I've been with Esri, as I was just telling Ned, almost a couple of years now, but I've been doing GIS for quite a while, about almost 22 years now. So it's always exciting to see a lot of the changes in the technology, things that come out that will help us really do our job more efficiently and easier. So for today's presentation and demos, I wanted to focus on data. And I guess, as we know, any work in GIS inherently involves data and working with lots of different various data sets and various sources. So I wanted to show you a few different things to basically help out on your job while you're working with all those different data sets. So I will dive in. So plan on covering a couple of different, we'll say, programs. I'm going to be in ArcGIS Pro today, showing you some data engineering, and then I will hop over to Arcgis Insights, where I'll show you some other ways to work with your data sets and visualize your data. So what is data engineering? This is almost, we'll call it a fancy term for what we do pretty much every day, all the time with our data. Think of this as the cleaning up and understanding your data. So again, as mentioned, we spend a lot of our time cleaning up our data just in order to get it ready to do analysis later. And we'll say that's usually not the fun part of our job, essentially turning all of that messy data into something that we can use. And it's estimated that us users, we spend about 80% of our analysis time just getting data ready to then be able to do the fun stuff. And so with the new tools that have been introduced by the team, I won't call it a toolbox. They don't like calling it a toolbox, or just because it is more of an experience, and I will show you that when we dive into Pro. Some of the benefits of using some of the data engineering tools is, again, as I mentioned, it's going to make you more efficient. It's going to help you out in your analysis, and hopefully help you also understand what you're working with that data set or those data sets in general. Similarly, I think maybe we've all worked somewhere. I've worked for an organization where we would get annoyed with all the different times we'd get, sloppy or messy spreadsheets and data sets, and we were asked to map something. Of course, you want to, say, take this back and then format this in a way that I can use this right away. As we know, that's not ideal. It's bad customer service. And so a lot of the requesters probably also wouldn't even know how to clean up their data for it to be used in GIS later. So we, as the GIS professionals, we tend to take on, I'll call it a burden of cleaning up someone else's data. We turn into those like data wizards essentially, and we take on that responsibility. So hopefully these new tools will help out. So what I'll show you are some ways that you can prep your data, basically enabling it for that future analysis. And then we have some extract and clean and construct tools that I'll show you, at least a brief overview of those, and ways you can also transform that data and start working with it. So I'm going to dive into ArcGIS Pro. Okay. Sorry, my mouse is stuck. So first, let me explain what's being shown on the map. I've previously done some research on food insecurity and food deserts around the city of Atlanta. So I was always interested in kind of what is going on in terms of food security. And so what's showing on the map right now is SNAP benefits across the country. And SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefit. And so essentially it's an assistance program. But really, that doesn't matter. This could be any data set, but I know I have a lot of good data in this particular data set. It's a big one. So typically when we get into our project, we plot our data, our feature on our map, and we just start taking a look at what's in it. And so I'd go in and take a look at the attribute table. I want to know what data set am I working with? What's in here? What attributes do I have? So we might do a typical scrolling through. I see name of the particular counties. This is broken out by counties, SNAP participation rate, number of participants, and this is also joined in with some census data. So I have some demographic and socioeconomic data, but it's a really long data set. And I have about 3,105 records, or not about, that's how many I do have. And so one way we typically start investigating what's going on with our data is really just like a scrolling through, trying to find different things going on. So one piece would be, for instance, trying to find null values, what's missing in our data set. So as we know, that's not ideal. That's a very tedious way of understanding what's going on with our data set. So the team at Esri has introduced a new data engineering experience. So if I go into my table of contents, I can right click that particular feature, and you will also see a data engineering button here. And so what happens when I click on this, it opens up a new view. So this is considered my data engineering view. And so this is kind of my workspace. And what you should notice right away is it takes that same feature layer, all those attributes, and it lists them. So essentially we had our columns, they look like rows here, but those are the same data sets or same features. And so I can also quickly get an idea of what's my data made of. So I see, okay, this is a text field for name. I see that ABC. I can see that I have some number fields in here, and kind of just get a better idea of what's going on. And also notice at the very bottom of this particular window, I have a field count. It's kind of a little trivia going around we'll say internally on how many other places where you can actually see a field count of what's going on in your data set, because even in the fields view, you don't see this. So that's a couple of different new features. So again, if you didn't see this when it was released in version 2.8, I've just done my update to 2.9. And so some of these newer pieces are also added in here, or it might all be new in general. Another thing that you'll notice is a couple of these little icons that pop up. So if you hover over any of your data sets, any of the attributes in here, you can get a quicker idea. Let me squish this down a little bit. You can see what's going on visually. So maybe I want to update my symbology without having to go right click my feature, go to symbology, and then picking which variable I'd like to map it by. I can just click here and it updates my map right away. So this is kind of I'll call it a quick way to figure out how you want to show your data. So maybe I'm interested also in household population or even average household size, because I know, especially looking at food benefits, the more people I have in my household, that would determine the type of benefit or how much benefit I would receive. So those are some handy features, as well as you'll notice there is this attribute table button. So I could quickly get into the attribute table, and then it also essentially pans over to that particular column that I clicked on without having to go and try to find it, scrolling through my whole long list. So go back into my data engineering view. So those are a couple of features there. The field count, do lots of things with hovering. And I also want to show you essentially what would go over here. What's this empty box for? So what we're doing with data engineering, I can click and drag these over. These are different variables that I essentially want to take a look at their statistics for. Maybe I get these summary statistics that I'm interested in, and I'm dragging all of those particular fields over, and what it's going to do when I hit the magic button of calculate is give me these particular items, null values, some standard statistics that I tend to look for, mean, median, and then also some outliers, as well as skewness and kurtosis. So, we're always interested in the symmetry of our data for skewness, and then also if I have any crazy outliers that might be throwing off my analysis. So I'll go ahead and click that calculate button. And what it does is gives me all of those figures. And I also get a nice chart preview. So I can see quickly how my data set or how my features within that data are distributed. So ideally we would want a normal distribution, which is like this particular chart here. Another, we'll say new feature, again, if this is all new, then that's great, but with the number of nulls. So I'm interested in looking at or figuring out where am I missing values. And something that was added earlier, so you can see the number of missing values like 12 and 1, but then it was also requested by users to also put the percentage of those missing values for that whole data set. So that's less than 0.4% of missing values for my whole data set, which isn't bad. But if I wanted to take a look at where I might be missing values, I can go and right click that particular number and then select null. And notice that I have 12 different counties that are selected. And so I might want to adjust for this. I might want to correct this because maybe those null values are going to throw my analysis off later on. So what I could do, if I wanted, is to fill those missing values. I would do that right click and then go in and fill missing values, and it'll bring in all that information. It's defaulted to the most common way that we tend to fill missing values. There's lots of statistics in here. But I could grab the nearest neighbor and get the average of those, and I can tell it which method I'd like to use. And if you're unsure, we have the little information panel that'll give you some more idea of those particular methods when you're doing spatial relationships. And so maybe I would do the nearest neighbor of out of 5 neighbors or whatnot, but I'm not going to run those, not yet. But this could be something, having 12 missing values or null values isn't that much, but maybe you have 1,200, and this isn't ideal for, you want to go and take a look. Should I do any nearest neighbors, because this is very different from over here, but that's okay, because it would tend to average out for that particular instance. That's the method that I'm choosing. So it's kind of applying that first law, Tobler's first law of geography, that everything's related to everything else, but of course the nearer things are more related. You could choose that particular method, or again, choose whichever one is most applicable for your research or for your analysis. And you've got some help too with some documentation. So if I did go ahead and run this, I'll just take the defaults that are in here. I'm going to do the average. No, too few records for analysis, at least one featured. Well, that's not ideal. Believe me, this would run. I just did this the other day. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through this error. I'm not sure why that did that. Participants, let me try this again. See, it even happens to us when we're doing presentations for you guys. All right, well, I'm not going to try to troubleshoot that one right now. I haven't actually even taken a look too much at this data. Either way, ideally, this would correct for those missing values, and it would populate my table, and then I could recalculate that, and then I would essentially see that either I had 0 missing values, or maybe I had still a couple that got pushed back. So that's my fill missing values tool. Sorry that didn't work on this one. Another feature that is available with the new data engineering view and experience is that you can also bring in standalone tables. It doesn't have to be mapped, essentially. So you sometimes do get those tables that you need to join up with your analysis or your project, and you can bring those in. And one of the one of the nice features about working with that is that if I were to go back into my data engineering view and I brought in a standalone table, I could still access the display XY or even geocode that table from the data engineering view. So the team's idea is also to make this all kind of in a comprehensive workspace, even though we are still in Pro, but put it all in the ribbon so I can easily access what I need pretty quickly. I'm going to go back down to this view. If I needed to also export these particular statistics or this table, there is a nice feature here to export statistics as a table, and that'll grab all of those, the ones that you've selected in this view, and then export that out as a table if you need to share it elsewhere. Some of the other tools that are available, if you look at the top ribbon, there are some clean tools, so you can easily, if you need to delete fields from this particular view, you could easily get in there. There's fill missing values again. And we've got some construct tools if you need to, especially if you need to calculate a field, this is a quick way to do it. Maybe you need to do a percentage or a rate or something. Transform field, so this is going to be if you have that skewed distribution and you want to transform this into a more normal distribution, and it'll walk you through that methodology. I've done some dimension reduction before, especially working with census data. You get a lot of population variables. You could easily get 100 different population variables that are broken out, but maybe you pick those particular components and do a principal component analysis, and you can run those through here. Integrate, this is especially handy, say for instance, if you want to enrich your data set or your analysis, you can grab some more data, add some more variables into your analysis from here. And you can also enrich by using some of the Living Atlas data sets and bring those in. And then lastly, we have a format button or a format grouping. If you need to convert fields, especially a time field, I like this one a lot, or if you need to also encode a field. So this is a quick way, maybe you need to assign ones and zeros or 1 through 5 really quickly. It'll give you this option within the data engineering view. So that is a brief overview of data engineering. So again, the idea, you don't have to be a data scientist to work with these tools. Esri hopefully has made them easy to understand. When you get into each of these different dialog boxes, you will also have some help and some information as well. Because maybe you hate statistics, but you need to work with these different data sets over and over again. They should hopefully help out in your particular workflow. And if I have time, I will go back and do my missing values again. Okay, let's move on to a different program. And this is probably one that I think is, we'll say, either forgotten about a lot or people just don't know about Insights. So I've shown you a few different ways that you can clean up your data and make it ready for analysis. With Arcgis Insights, think of this as your visualization software. Now, while there are still plenty of charting and graphing and of course mapping options and capabilities in Pro, say I want to take my analysis further and I'll go into Insights, and mainly personally I'll do this because of feature functionality. I like playing with my data in Insights. So it's going to allow you to do those additional analytics and visualizations. So if you've never checked out Insights, check it out. And so we've got this nice, beautiful page. It'll give you some overview as to what Insights can do. Notice all these very pretty charts and graphs, basically helping you visualize your data. And I'm going to dive into Insights in just a second. And then especially with the way our, I don't want to say platform, the way our different applications work, you can work with your data. Say you had it in Pro, maybe now you upload this to your Arcgis Online account, and then you can bring that into Insights. So we have both a desktop version of Insights as well as within Arcgis Online. So I'm going to go into Arcgis Online, and you can access Insights from the app launcher, or also just go to insights.arcgis.com. So we're going to shift gears a little bit, completely different data set. This is for the District of Columbia. This is an old Insights project that I worked with just crime data, incident data. And I liked working with this data set within Insights just because it had a lot of different variables to work with and a lot of different formatting, essentially, a lot of different field types. So what I have here in Insights, and actually I should go back. Let me show you the basics with, if you've never been in Insights, this is the home page. So similar to our other applications, you get basically your work, and so it shows my recent workbooks for this particular organization. We also have, there's a what's new little kind of, we'll call it a widget that kind of updates you on, you know, how to or FYI pieces down here. You also have this table of contents on the left-hand panel, so similar feel to other applications you've worked with. So I can take a look at the different workbooks that I have within Insights. And again, this is still pulling from my ArcGIS Online organization, different models, and the different data sets, and these are not necessarily changing because they're coming from the same place. We also have different connections, so you don't necessarily have to only have your data in ArcGIS Online or coming from Pro. If someone sent you a spreadsheet via OneDrive or SharePoint, you can access that as well. You can just connect to it. So I'm going to go back to this particular policing data set. And so what I have here, this whole, pretty much most of my page is my workbook. This is my workspace. And the way Insights functions is you bring in your data set, so you can either add some data from what you already own or grab some from the Living Atlas, however, and it brings it in, and you're essentially looking at it, sorry, by expanding, and then you get your particular attribute values and fields. And so for my incidents, I have lots of different information. I know that I've also filtered this out to just show a few different variables as well as the date. I wanted to do some time series analysis. So if I'm looking at trying to answer the question of, you know, what crimes occurred over a certain period of time, or how many occurred over, you know, this particular time, I can do a time series analysis. And so on this particular chart, I have all of my incidents essentially charted out or mapped out, and it's showing me, you know, different information as I hover over this. The beauty of Insights cards, and there's lots of different beauties, if I click on report date, I can also change this. So right now it's just all the incidents. It's not necessarily grouped by any particular attribute, but I could maybe filter this out or group this out by shift, the different shift times that I had for my police force. So midnight, day, and evening shift, for instance, if you want to get a quick idea of how many incidents were there over the course of these particular times of day, groupings of day. Or maybe I'm interested in what offense might be the most common over this period of time that I had. So hover over, I'll get some information. This is theft, other, or even the next highest would be theft from auto. And then of course all the others in here. So I can continue to interact with my particular Insights card just by adding those particular incidents within that card. And then I'll just go back to group by. So that's showing all of them. The other feature to show here is that I can also do it by count of incident by month, and these are, I've enabled cross filters as to where if I select one of these on this chart or graph, it also changes what's showing on another one. And you would essentially be picking what you want to show and how. This incident heat chart, this is a very popular one in Insights to give you another quick view of what's going on in your data. So maybe the question has been asked, is there a certain day and time of the week that we have more incidents, more crime occurring? So for some reason, it looks as though around lunchtime and then maybe after dinner seems to be peak times for incidents going on. And similarly, as I click on here and interact, I can get a better idea. It'll filter out the other cards. Another one I like to show is spatial aggregation. This is also because of course, as GIS people, we tend to get a lot of point data. We tend to get a lot of data to show on a map that doesn't make sense. It's too jumbled. There's a lot of stuff going on. So you have thousands and thousands of observations. You know, maybe you get that request, hey, can you show me all of my meters in this particular county? And then you give them a map like this, and that's what they asked for, but really you can't tell what's going on. So we have various ways to display the same data within Insights. And so this is just a spatial aggregation. All this is all of the offenses on one map by type, color coded, and it gives me a quick count of those particular offenses. But maybe to narrow it down some, or to get a better idea of what's going on per district, I want to map those same incidents by district, and I essentially am grabbing another or making another map card to do the same type of mapping. It just looks different, so I can get more information. I can get a better idea of what's going on per district. And also some of the settings if you want to change color. Sorry, I don't know why it's popping up over there. The other handy feature with Insights is I can flip this card. So say I got back in here, it's been many months since I last worked on this, and I couldn't remember exactly what I did. What am I showing? I can go and investigate my card even more. So that's a simple spatial aggregation, taking all of that point data and working with it in a little different way to display it differently. But say I still want to show both points and some shading, and I'll show you a couple of different ways you can do this. So this particular map is all of those incidents binned. So I still get an idea of where there might be higher concentrations or higher numbers of incidents by looking at the bins, but maybe I still want to dive in a little further. So I can actually, if you're wondering, how do you make these things? I'm going to grab my incidents feature layer, and I'm just going to drag it over to my workspace. And when you do this, it gives you a choice. What do you want to make a map? Do you want to make a chart or a table? I'm going to do another map just because. And I know this particular incidents layer right now, I have a filter on offense, so these are only showing burglaries. And you can remove that filter to show, and actually I'll show you what that looks like. I'll just remove this. Now I have all of those offense types. So this goes kind of back to that first one where we just had a whole bunch of dots on the map and then we didn't know what we were really looking at. So I'm going to go back to burglary and apply all of this. And so I can change what I want this to display as. So maybe I want to do types, unique symbol. Again, since this is all filtered out to just burglaries, that's all it's going to show, but you have all your different symbology options in here as well. Maybe I also just want to add it to the same map. You can do that instead of adding a different map card, essentially. Get rid of that though. I'm going to show you a couple other features as well. So taking this even further, so points and density, I want to show some shading as well as some points. So I've got kind of a, we'll say a dot density. So I'm still taking all of my incidents, I'm showing those on the map, get rid of density or get rid of incidents, and you can kind of get a better idea of what's going on in a different visual. This card here is, it's called a data clock. And so it's essentially the same thing as what we saw. I'll go back real quick on this temporal data one when I did the heat chart by day of week and hour of day, but it's in clock form. So you can, if you like working with circles and in the format of a clock, this would essentially be showing the same thing. And again, all of these cards, as you click on it, you interact with it, you can set these up as to where if the user is looking at these, they have their own filtering options as well. So if you want to keep the clock format and share that with them, but you put all of these different variables in here that they can work with. And then another map type with kernel density. So we're taking, with kernel density, we're taking the estimation, the smoothing that includes inferences of what's around and kind of taking that averaging there. Also, for each of these cards, so notice I have this big action button down here. If I wanted to keep on going, maybe I don't even know, we'll say, what I'm doing in here, it helps me kind of ask those questions about what I'm looking at with my data. So for analytics, how is this distributed? So it'll walk me through essentially what is applicable for that question. If I want to look at distribution, I can even view this as a chart if I needed to. And look at this over a series, and I can change this. Maybe I want, different bins. I didn't customize anything on this. If you want to do some more spatial analysis, but yeah, you've got quite a few different questions, and if you're asking these questions, it's going to walk you through, it's going to put what's applicable in terms of those methodologies in that option box. And then also for spatial analysis, you can continue to add different maps and tables to your workbook. And we do have an Enriched Data button as well in Insights. And so again, if you wanted to add more data sets, maybe from the Living Atlas or from your organization, you can do this. I have this set to global. Go back to the United States, and I have all of these different types of data sets that I can add, enriching my analysis. So if you're interested in age, maybe you want to include that with your analysis of crime. Different population variables, and I can do income by age if I want, and essentially be adding that. But I'm not going to add these just because we've got quite enough information in here already. But that is how you could get to some of those extra layers just from this button here, the action button. Also, if I wanted to, I don't necessarily have to map all of the incidents or chart all of the incidents. Maybe I'm only interested in something like district. I could grab that particular feature, and maybe I just want to, either I could get a quick table. We'll take a look at this. And so I'm essentially charting what's going on per district. And I can still even change it here. And this is just a simple, it's just a summary of what's going on. So maybe I want different statistics, and maybe that one also isn't the best one to show you. Let's do offense. Put that in a table. I do count of incidents, or I could do offenses by, let me go back here. Sorry about this. I forgot I had a filter on that. This one does not have a filter. So I can do maybe report date. Maybe I'll break it out by shift. How many crimes or incidents are occurring by shift, or maybe not the count, or maybe break it out by district, method, gun, knife, others. And so you can continue to break this out even more. So that's the particular table feature. I'll just get rid of this because that doesn't make any sense. And then also show you a charting feature. My mouse just skipped, sorry about this. So chart, you have a choice of what type of chart you want. So maybe we'll do a donut chart. And I think I just made this mad. Donut chart is not how you would want to display count of incidents on report date. So as you continue to play with the different chart types, you will get a better idea of how you want to show data and what makes sense to show. Bar chart also wouldn't make sense for report date, but maybe it makes sense for offense. And then maybe instead of count, you have something else in there by ward. So each of these that you continue to add to your workspace, you can just kind of configure, play with this to get an idea of what your data sets look like. So I can sit in here and play with Insights all day long. So again, just to recap, you can either do the whole feature layer, or you can grab certain attribute columns essentially from that feature layer and either map, chart, or table those out. The last thing I want to show you is kind of putting this all together. Say you want to share your work, you want to share these insights cards with someone. You can either share an insights page, which is what this is, or even take all of your different cards and export those out, or you can export them separately, or you can put them into a story map. If you want to tell the story of either what you did or whatever the phenomenon you're researching, you can do that quickly with a story map or one of these insights pages. And when you hand this off to someone, they can still interact with that particular insights page the same way, based on how you had everything set up. And so this is just a sample of, information. And the other way of sharing this, by the way, so say you're going out on vacation and you want to hand this off to another technician or analyst to be sure that they can do the same work while you're gone, you can share out the model of insights. So kind of think of this as almost like the model builder, but for insights. And so it'll basically model out all of those particular methods that you did in each of these. I have them broken out into tabs, so they're pretty simple to, this one's pretty simple. Not much going on here. And so you can share that model out with a colleague or someone else if you need to hand it off, and then they can reproduce the same. And it even gets into the detail of, how did we style this? How many classifications did they have? 5 classes, got it, symbol color, and then it'll give those details as well. So as I mentioned, I can spend all day in Insights. I know that was a super quick overview of Insights, but hopefully you've learned some of the great ways that you can work with your data with data engineering, kind of cleaning that up and also understanding what you have in there, but then also visualizing your data within Insights. Again, I think some people might forget about Insights, or maybe you don't even have it available, but talk to your account manager and hopefully we can get you a trial that you can play with and enjoy. I've got a couple of resources here, introducing data engineering in ArcGIS Pro. This is the most recent blog that was released by the team, and they walk through each of those buttons in a lot more detail, and you can kind of click along with them as well. And then the ArcGIS Insights, just the general page for resources, discovery paths such as for training, and then also documentation on either how to do something, but also information on releases and troubleshooting, and then extra pieces if you get stuck. And there's also more information there. Leave that on for just a few more seconds if you want to grab those. And really, that is it. I want to thank you again for joining me, and I hope you can take some of these tools and methods back. Thanks.
Thanks, Lakeisha. We have some questions
that
have started spooling up. Dan Thomas wants to know, have you used or integrated third-party tools such as FME or I think it's NIME into your ArcGIS Pro workflows?
And sorry, Ned, I think the microphone's doing the same thing. Was that how do I use FME tools?
Have you used?
Have I? I have not, I'll say in the past at least 5 years. I haven't touched FME since then, but I know others are doing that. You can, and you can connect to those particular data sets, bring those in, especially with data engineering, because the data engineering also is not stuck on any particular feature that I might just have laying in my catalog. So you can work with your different databases and connections.
Got it. From Jessica Burr, does ArcGIS Insights require separate purchase if we already have licenses for ArcGIS Online?
Yes, so it is an add-on, and sorry, my computer just did something. It is an add-on, so even though you have an organizational account, we'll talk to your account manager and see about adding. You can get a trial to work with that, and I'm not exactly sure what that pricing would be. I know I don't want to get into like the technicalities. That's for my account managers, but yeah, it would be an add-on license. And you can either, you can use that license, you can either have a desktop one or within ArcGIS Online as a named user.
Good. So we have a couple of folks that are asking you to show something. Can you show where to do kernel density and insights again, please?
Kernel density and insights, I think I heard.
Yes, that's Brittany Luke.
Yeah, so. Sorry, my mouse is stuck. Here we go. So this particular one, let me get rid of this and this. So the other thing with Insights, your workbook page, you can zoom in, zoom out, and make all of these bigger. But for this particular one, I guess I'm not exactly sure which, just showing this map or just kind of the process. And basically for this, and I'll keep going, but this particular one, oh goodness. I think my mouse battery is dying, sorry, as it was trying to click off somewhere else earlier. For this particular, you would just end up choosing, so this one went to incident date. And so the other, actually one thing I didn't show was as you start adding these to that particular map feature, maybe I do a spatial aggregation, you can do extra, we'll say the extra analyses that you didn't see for those particular fields. And then also with that particular map card, we'll go back to another map card. Change this. Oh, of course, I chose the one that is already filtered out again. You know what? Sorry, bear with me. My at least it made it through most of my my presentation. Hold on one second. I'm gonna try to switch my mouse out. I guess Ned, in the meantime, I'm gonna go back to kernel density, but did we, was there another one in the meantime?
It's another one asking you to show something. I'm hoping you can hear me. My microphone is for some reason cutting out for folks. Can you please show how to export the cards separately?
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, give me a.
That's from Jeanette Duncan.
Okay. See if I can do this with my laptop trackpad instead. Perfect timing. It might mess up my screens. Hold on. Where is my cursor? Okay, this is kind of a pain right now, sorry. The card export, and I'm gonna go back to this. This is very hard to do on my, well, typically on each of these cards, you can do them for, actually, sorry, I'm on the wrong item. You have to be on one of these. Whose mouse goes out during a presentation? I tell you. Okay, you have to be on one of the column or one of the chart types to be able to export. And so there is a, which one is it? Wait, so you flip it. You know, I wonder if they updated that. You should be able, on each of the cards, you're supposed to be able to export your, export either of them as either a PNG or a JPEG. But there used to be a, and I apologize, there used to be a different looking button. There's an export image button, or there used to be.
So many Esri updates.
Now I feel like I'm lying to you. I know it's there. And it's usually when we flipped our card, we could see export, oh geez, there it is, export image. It just looks a little different. So sorry, whoever, when you flip the card itself, I was thinking this used to be up front, but there is this export image tab. It looks grayed out. And then you can choose at the bottom, if my mouse could go down there, you could choose at the bottom which format you want. So maybe I want this as a JPEG. I've just made Insights mad right now because it is not responding. Or made my computer mad.
Not to worry, I think we get the
And I know we're running out of time, sorry.
Yeah.
What in the world? This is very hard to do on a trackpad right now. I want to do this. Either way, there are your exports. For some reason, it's not doing it on mine. That would be how you do that.
Very good.
And yeah, I know we're out of time. I wanted to get back to kernel density. We do have some documentation. I know even on my own page here, we walk through some kernel density estimations on here. It is one of the analysis tools that's available within Insights once you actually get in there and can drag and drop and customize it based on that particular one. So, and I think I might have even linked it up in here. Oh, technical difficulties. Either way, Ned, as I asked yesterday, if you could send me, or maybe I'll get whoever asked certain questions that I wasn't able to show or answer, I can email them directly or email me directly for those particular.
Right, you had your email up for quite a bit. Hopefully they were able to email you their questions. And I apologize for my microphone. Hopefully you can hear me right now.
Hey, all good. Your microphone, my mouse, my pro, whoever.
This is my 5th session, and I can't believe it's cutting out now. So, anyway.
Yeah, I should have known with my mouse. This is the first time I've been back in my office in 11 months. So, you know, that mouse has just been sitting here. Should have brought more batteries.
Right. Well, with that, I don't see any more questions. Thank you. Thanks from the committee and from our sponsors for putting this presentation together.